Thanks, Pascal, for summarizing MEF's work and ambitions in the security space. If you are a MEF member company and would like to get involved in MEF's security projects, please feel free to let us know in the chat window or visit MEF's website, mef.net. If you'd like more information on how your company can join MEF, let us know that too. That's a conversation we'd love to have. Now, for our final look at today's topic, we're taking our last deep dive of the series with experts from Colt Technology Services, Verizon Business, and Fortinet. I recently interviewed them to talk about how enterprises view security within their overall digital transformation strategy, emerging security threats, and how to measure return on investment in security. Here's what they had to say. Welcome, Venkatesh, Dawane, and Jonathan. Thank you so much for taking this time to be here with us. Let's start off, if you could please share your full name, your title, and a little bit about your role in your organization. Let's go, Venkatesh, Dawane, Jonathan.
Hello there. I'm Venkatesh Ravindran. I'm the Vice President for Security and Resilience at Colt. So as part of my remit, I'm responsible for driving the cybersecurity strategy at Colt and equally making sure that we are able to protect Colt as well as our customers. Right? From a resilience perspective, making sure that we have a robust set of processes so that we're able to respond and recover in case of any incidents or crisis. Right? So in short, that is what I do at Colt.
Thanks, Dawane Young with Verizon. I'm part of Verizon Partner Solutions. I'm the Division Vice President of Platforms and Applications. Within Verizon, VPS or Verizon Partner Solutions is a unique organization because we cultivate alliances and partnerships with companies across the globe to leverage the various assets within Verizon to grow the top line revenue of both our partners and Verizon. So this discussion is a unique one because cybersecurity is at the forefront of both Verizon and our partners, and we present solutions in order to mitigate the threats that we're going to discuss in today's discussion. So looking forward to the discussion.
Hey there, my name is Jonathan Nguyen. I'm a VP and a field CISO at Fortinet. So my job at Fortinet is really to apply my 25 years in cybersecurity and business continuity to get things right, really how to help enterprises open up for digital transformation, at the same time maintain a reasonable level of care in terms of security and resilience, because at the end of the day, it's all about confidentiality, integrity, and availability of the data. So thanks for having me here today.
Perfect. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Let's get into it. We're going to start generally here. I would love to hear what each of you thinks about the role of security in digital transformation initiatives. Let's go, again, Venkatesh, Dawane, Jonathan.
Sure, Jeff. I think most organizations are actually in some form or shape in their journey towards the digital transformation, right? And in fact, I think it's been accelerated over the last 12 to 18 months due to the pandemic. And I guess when it comes to the transformation, either organizations are looking to move the workloads to the cloud, or probably looking at automating their business process, or investing in technologies such as AI, ML, or data analytics, and so on and so forth. I feel that when you are investing in transformative technologies, it should also protect your business, your assets, and customers. And that's where I think security plays a key role in terms of the transformation journey. I think for security to be successful, I think security should be able to provide to the journey in terms of the speed of the transformation, at the same time help the business to achieve the outcome. I think that's going to be the key for us to play a key role in making sure that we're able to enable the organization in the journey.
I would add the scale and breadth of digital transformation that is currently occurring is at such a massive scale. One of the conversations we have with our customers is that if you're not looking to disrupt the way you do business, then you're probably going to get disrupted. So you have to take a proactive approach towards digital transformation. And to the point, looking at digital transformation, security has to be an end-to-end component to what you do and transforming the way you do business. It's not just about moving to the cloud. It's, do you have a cloud-based solution that has end-to-end security built into it at every layer? So I would echo the sentiments and just really add the fact that there is a significant amount of digital transformation that is occurring today, and thus enterprises, customers, verticals in all segments really need to take a look at security as a critical component of what they're doing.
Yeah, so I would go ahead and echo what my counterparts have said. I think digital transformation is indeed changing the way we conduct commerce, communicate, and connect in general. There are two fundamental lessons out of the pandemic. One is that the successful enterprises were the ones that were able to create new interactions and engagements between their brand and their customers and their stakeholders, their partners and their employees. So opening up the enterprise is the object of the exercise. So security is about safely opening up the enterprise so that it can go through digital transformation and generate the growth that we're all looking for. The second aspect of digital transformation is all about data-driven decision making. How do we better allocate our resources? How do we create more responsive networks end-to-end to create better business outcomes and better user experiences? So security is integral to that. The key element here is to stop thinking about security as a standalone silo. Security, networking, and the compute, wherever it is, all need to work in unison as one solution. Because when you're thinking about things like 5G and sub 5-second SLAs and intervals of those business cycles, you're really talking about near real-time performance. So security, yes, absolutely end-to-end, but it has to be integrated with networking and the compute.
I love that answer. Thank you so much, Jonathan. Venkatesh, you mentioned the speed of transformation. Picking up on that, how could the security team keep up with the speed of transformation?
Sure, Jeff. I think it's a great question. Right? So I think one of the key principles I would say is how can we embed security into the change life cycle, right? What do I mean by embedding security into the change life cycle? In the past, what happened was when a new product or a service is being rolled out, I think security was actually introduced later into the conversation, right? Which meant that actually it is complex to actually achieve security. It becomes expensive and it also delays the business in terms of achieving the outcome, right? So rather what I feel is the security teams should be embedded into the project lifecycle. So they get engaged early into the life cycle of the project. So then they can actually bake in the security requirements as part of the design phase, essentially trying to drive the security by design principle, right? By doing this, what happens is you reduce the complexity because you are engaged in the design phase, and you reduce the cost of implementing security and also any delays, because if rather than looking at security as an afterthought, it's actually part of the process, right?
Thank you, Venkatesh. So with cyber attacks becoming smarter and more sophisticated, do you think it's time to look beyond the traditional security tools and controls into more of a behavior-based security analysis? Let's go over to Jonathan and then back to you, Venkatesh.
Yeah. So going forward, the volume, variety, and the velocity of data in operating environments is going to be so high that those traditional approaches aren't going to work. In fact, I would challenge those traditional approaches have never worked. And that's why we've seen so many failures in cybersecurity. The issues around a lack of visibility, edge to edge, the lack of integration and automation lends to a complexity level that overwhelms security teams. The largest teams with the largest budgets and the deepest benches have been the victims of the largest cascading cybersecurity failures. So fundamentally, I think we need to reassess the way we approach security, and working as a holistic, integrated, automated platform is really the right approach. I think when you look at the research across Fortinet and FortiGuard Labs, and even Verizon shop where I spent some time, it clearly shows that the reason why we fail is all around simple to intermediate controls. And so, yes, moving forward, you have a threat environment that's far more complex, far more effective than ever before. Approaching that type of an operating environment with those tight business cycles and requirements around digital transformation with traditional disaggregated approaches that are non-integrated and let alone automated really is not the right approach. Moving forward, it has to be holistic. It has to be integrated across prevention, detection, and response, and it has to be AI powered.
Yeah, I completely agree with Jonathan, right? I think we need to evolve from the traditional security controls. So, for example, if you take a SOC, right, with more and more log sources being thrown at, right, it's impractical for probably a single SOC analyst to look at all the logs and then take an informed decision, right? So that's where, as Jonathan said, it's more about how we can automate and orchestrate in terms of the whole logging and monitoring, just to give an example, right? At the same time, I also feel that organizations should also look to see and have a clear security technology roadmap. So what has happened, what I've seen is normally it's a tendency to go and then buy a nice new fancy technology or a tool, right? Which means we are not actually sweating the asset and capabilities that we have. So I think it's equally important to clearly understand what the existing technology that we have and what are the capabilities that's going to actually bring to the table, and sweat the assets before even actually go and then buy anything shiny new product as well. So yes, definitely we need to probably look at evolving technologies, but at the same time, equally important to make sure that we are able to sweat the assets that we have in the organization.
Wonderful. Thank you. So let's drill down a little bit here. How should enterprises specifically look at security as part of their digital transformation strategy? Let's go over to you, Dawane, and then back to you, Venkatesh.
Sure, Jeff. I think it's critical that, as Jonathan and Venkatesh have outlined and articulated, it's a holistic approach to security, end-to-end, and the overall infrastructure. So let's talk a little bit about how organizations are changing via the pandemic and digital transformations. Organizations are adopting workforces that are remote, most part. Networks are growing, they're distributed. Employees are leveraging more cloud-based applications, and all of that has to go into a security framework. The former hub and spoke model of security is no longer the way to go about it. You have to have an end-to-end approach to security, taking on the new technologies from zero trust policy frameworks and on at the application layer, at the network layer, and then really looking at it. So if an enterprise really isn't looking at the full scale and scope of their infrastructure, then they're really in a difficult place in our current environment with digital transformation so prevalent.
Yeah, I completely echo what Dawane said there, right? I guess for me, just to add to what he said, I think every organization, I think, need to probably not look at security as a technology problem or an issue, right? I think security needs to be looked at more from a business context. When I say business context, right, what I mean is every organization has a business strategy. They have a defined budget, and then they have an outcome that they want to achieve, right? So to achieve the outcome, they have a set of business process and also a technology that enables them, right? So I think from a cybersecurity perspective, we need to look at, okay, what are the outcomes that they're planning to achieve, right? And the technology investment that's being made. And that's where the end-to-end journey, as Dawane said, and how can security be embedded into the end-to-end life cycle. And also probably I'll recall what Jonathan said, right? Rather than looking at security as a point solution, how we can embed security into the overall framework, network framework, and look at it end-to-end. So I think that's going to be the key for enterprise, I would say.
Perfect. Thank you. So I want to hear from all three of you for this next question. And we've talked about, the massive number of these attacks. Are there any patterns that you're seeing in these types of breaches and incidents? Let's go Dawane, Jonathan, and then Venkatesh.
The one pattern is that the cyber threat landscape did not take off with the pandemic. It actually accelerated things and expanded things. So, we have within Verizon, I have the Verizon Data Breach Investigative Report, or DBIR, and outlining the various threats. And I think you had the existing threat landscape, and then you've had the volumes have increased exponentially of the threat vectors that are out there. So being aware of that and as an enterprise or a business to protect your network and infrastructure, being aware of the volume of remote access that is occurring, VPN connectivity, multi-factor authentication across multiple applications and the network. The proliferation of BYOD, bring your own device. All of these things are coming together at the same time. So you see the patterns and trends that as we have evolved our enterprises and businesses since the pandemic and since the transformation, the threat landscape has evolved as well. And they're with more endpoints, there's more threat points. So I would just say that the major pattern that we've seen, Jeff, is that there's an exponential uptick in the amount of threats from a cyber perspective.
Yeah, so it's very interesting what's happened since the pandemic, because it's twofold in the threat landscape. One, the old situation really didn't go away. It just got worse. So we still see 99% of all the vulnerabilities exploited were known for at least a year. That 95% of the cloud security problems are the customer's fault due to complexity. At the same time, we had those things going on, those legacy problems. We had a new rise in issues. So today we see a tenfold increase in ransomware attacks, really thematic attacks and campaigns of attacks against those remote workers. We see more attacks against web applications than ever before. We see more botnets than ever before. So it's really a compounding environment where you see the adversaries using the dark web for both formal and informal teaming arrangements, right? And they're using the tools we have to detect vulnerabilities faster, to develop attacks faster, and to launch those attacks in an automated fashion better than ever before. And so I think across that threat landscape, what you're seeing now is an environment that truly pushes those legacy approaches to security out of the way. Those are no longer viable, and we see that. I think the most troubling thing about the threat landscape is that Verizon did report for the first time this year that you saw more data breaches in the cloud than you did on-prem. And that suggests that those types of structural issues and that lack of visibility and integration that I spoke to earlier are being carried through now into their cloud migrations. And I think that's a looming issue as well. So unfortunately, there's not a lot of good news that things seem to be getting worse and they're accelerating. But there are hard lessons there, right, across our own FortiGuard labs and the DBIR shop, which I had the great pleasure of running for 2 years, is that there are things that we can do to manage risk, things around zero trust, things around integration of best-in-class processes and controls. Those are reasonable steps that we can undertake without a lot of FUD. So yeah, there's mixed bed there.
Yeah, I'll probably just to add to that, right? As both Dawane and Jonathan said, definitely there's been an increase in the number of attacks. In fact, if you see the number of 0 days this year in the first half, right, there's been quite a significant increase as well, I would say. And also the sophistication. So for example, if you take ransomware, right, now we are talking about double extortion, triple extortion, right? And then DDoS, extortion around DDoS. So it's getting more and more sophisticated. Other point I would like to add is probably it's becoming easy for adversaries now with the as a service that you can actually go and buy in the dark web, right? So you don't have to actually have the capability to go and build some of these tools. So it's readily available. You just have to go buy and then launch an attack, right? So that's also means that more adversaries are actually finding it easy to probably go and buy something and launch something, and more players are getting into this market, right? So I guess those are some of the changes I'm seeing.
Okay, thanks, gentlemen. Let's go now to Jonathan. What is the ROI on digital user experience?
Yeah, so one of the biggest questions I get today from CISOs is that their boards are asking them to demonstrate the ROI the security delivers to the business, but also on the user experience, right? So how do you convert traditional ITIL-based KPIs into monetary metrics that the CFO can understand? And so at Fortinet, what we do is we have technologies, products like FortiMonitor, for instance, that allows you to understand how every incremental change in controls or investments in networking, security, or application performance delivers improvements in the customer experience in terms of the dwell time, the number of visits, the amount of revenue generated, the productivity associated with those types of changes, so that now the CISO and his and her team can take those types of metrics that the CFO understands and deliver them to the board and say, this is what security enables. These are the new revenue streams we enable. This is the accelerated innovation that we enable. These are the new customer engagements that we enable. In fact, when a security team implements things like zero trust and multi-factor authentication for their business, I say it gets them to good security. But when you enable that for your customers and your partners and your stakeholders, that's great security. Why? Because then you open the enterprise, and now you assure that not only your employees, but your customers can access the appropriate applications and resources they need. And when you do that, you begin to remove the complexity and the pain and the friction out of the business model. And when that happens, you generate new business, new engagement models, new types of productivity, but ultimately better user experiences, right? And that's how you take good security, you make it great by enabling the business, but with very clear metrics that they can understand. And that's what we do at Fortinet.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. A great way to bring it home here. It's time for closing thoughts. If anyone has any final thoughts they'd love to share, now is the time. So let's go Dawane, Venkatesh, and Jonathan.
So I think we have significantly scared everybody with today's discussion about the threat landscape, but it's a very real one. I appreciate everyone's thoughts and comments, but I think with digital transformation, and to Jonathan's last point, the big pieces of digital transformation is around the experiences that customers have with businesses and also the business processes. So, taking both of those and converging those from a security framework perspective, I think is critical. So I would echo those sentiments. I do think, from a Verizon perspective, as we open up 5G, we create more partnerships with MEC, both public and private MEC. There's content expansion. There's so many opportunities as 5G brings to bear the industrial fourth revolution, and all of this digital transformation occurs. The only thing I would echo from today's discussion is that we just keep security at the forefront of all of these evolutions and transformations that are occurring, and work forward.
Yep. So from my perspective, I think probably I would like to summarize in terms of a couple of points, right? As I kind of spoke earlier, I think from a digital transformation perspective, I think embedding security early into the life cycle is going to be key. I think for any organization, right? And then also, as my colleagues mentioned, I think it's the end-to-end journey rather than looking at it from a silo perspective. And then the last bit is, I think both security team as well as the business need to probably have a partnership model rather than look at it as a transaction-based engagement when there is a need, right? So how you can actually have a business partner model so that actually security teams have an understanding of what you're trying to do, what your outcome you're trying to achieve, and how they can actually embed security into what you're trying to do, right? I think that's going to be the key, I would say.
Yeah. So, hey, many thanks for this session. I think the object of the exercise in security is to safely open up the enterprise for digital transformation to create those new customer interactions. The key thing to remember, there's a lot of FUD out there, right? And security is all about risk management. And what I stress is before you buy anything, really think about what you're trying to achieve and understand that it's about basic, simple to intermediate controls first. The vast majority of security is about risk management. The vast majority of security threats can be handled through those simple to intermediate controls, which we can help anybody with, right? And then think about resilience, because if you're really worried about a true zero day that costs hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars to launch against your organization, you're not going to be successful there. The largest organizations have been victims to true zero days. But the practical reality is that you don't want to be patient 2, 3, 4, 5. That's where those security controls come in. That's what we do at Fortinet. We help you manage that level of complexity so you can get it right in cybersecurity. So I would say, there's a lot of information out there. You can look at Fortinet.com or find me on LinkedIn. Happy to have the discussion. But think about those simple to intermediate controls that deliver that reasonable level of care so you can open up your enterprise safely.
Gentlemen, thank you so much. It's been a great conversation on the role that security plays in the digital transformation. Dawane, Venkatesh, Jonathan, really appreciate you sharing the time and your insights today.